All right. So the forms have been set up now. Let me quickly show you how they look. So here is the create one for register account and the login. So I have implemented the password check limitation here as well. So this will basically check the password strength. Um, if the password is not strong, it will obviously say it's very weak, and if I make it a strong password, so it will obviously say it's a strong password. Alright, so we have also included the password confirmation field here as well, and there is one more thing which is forgot password. Alright, so now in this series we are going to work on the register account. So as I earlier mentioned that we have created the jobs portal um, database. So what we are going to do is that if you come down to the database and migrations, we have the user migrations table. So what it does is basically it comes out of the box with the Laravel, and it contains, let me just refactor the code. So what it does is basically name, email verified, add, password, and stuff like that. So what I need is basically, so we have three roles in this project. So the first one will be the role for the admin. The second one will be the role for the companies, and the last one will be for the user. So what I'm going to do is basically I will say after the password, I will say integer, sorry, integer like this, and I will name it as role. And and one thing we need to do is basically let's come to our user model, and you can see that there are a few things here. Obviously, we might need them in future, so we will just let them as it is, and I refactor the code. All right. So what else do we need to do is basically the one thing I'm going to do is basically use the const, and in the constant I will declare uh, user or maybe the admin role, and I will name it as I will give the value as 1. So the second would be the company, and for the company we will have uh, the role ID 2, and the last one will be for the member. All right, so I have misspelled it. So for the member we will have the ID of 3. All right, so we are hard coding these three, so will only have obviously 3 roles, and what I need to do is basically uh, just type in here and give this a default value of admin, sorry, like so, user admin role. And obviously we don't want this to look like this, so I will import the class up top here, right? So we have the env file set up. Let me just quickly open it. .env, and the database is set up, everything is set up, we don't need to do anything else, except that we will use the mail trap here, right here. So we will use the mail trap, and I will set up in the next video. So for now we are only going to stick with uh, the user registration process. All right, so first of all let's go ahead and uh, migrate the uh, database. Okay, so one more thing I want to show you is basically in the web file, I have created these 3 routes. The one is for the login, register, and create password. So I have created one more controller, which is the register controller. And what else I want is basically I want these routes to be only accessible if the user is not logged in. So what should I do will be I will cut them out, and I will say uh, middleware, and inside the middleware we can apply as many middlewares as we like. So I will say uh, guest, and I will group them, uh, sorry, I will group them and I will call the callback function and like so. So these middlewares will only be accessible when the user is not logged in. And one more thing I want to do is basically I want to set up some kind of logic here that if the user tries to brute force our application, tries to um, make some uh, unlimited number of requests. So we want to limit the user here. So for that, there comes the rate limiter. So Laravel gives us the rate limiter middleware out of the box. So if we come to the uh, kernel here, let me show you inside the application, and we have our HTTP and kernel. So let me show you where it is. Yeah, inside the middleware, uh, we have the throttle API. So you can see that this is for throttling API, and the middleware we will be using is basically we will use the throttle, this one. So the route middleware, this one route throttle middleware. So what it will do is basically it will prevent the user from entering unlimited number of requests. So how we can do is basically we will apply throttle, and inside the throttle we will specify the number of requests per minute. So how we can do that is basically I will say 20 requests per minute. For the demonstration purpose, I will say 5 requests per minute. All right, so we will do that later. Right now, we will just stick to the 20 requests per minute. So what it will do is basically it will keep track of the IP and how many requests are made from per IP. And if that request crosses the limit of 20, it will automatically shows them the page expire or too many attempts page. So if I reload this, everything works fine. So I go to the create account, and let's go ahead and quickly first of all let's go and php artisan db uh, migrate. So we will migrate the database, and it's worked. So let's go into the jobs portal. So you can see the users here, and let's go to the structure here, and the role has by default of 1, which is basically over the admin role. So what else do we need to do is basically we have to catch the post request from this URL. So if this URL throws the post request like so, we will create a so post request on this. So we will say let's say create account. All right. So I think so. It should be just create, and I will say create or maybe register dash user. That's fine. And one more thing that we need to do is basically, all right, so first let's go to the let's close all these things, we don't need them. And one more thing is that I have included some other css and javascript files here inside the app.js. So whenever you add more files, so this will not automatically compile them. The reason is that because we have already did compile our assets uh, for the production, this one. So if you are running on the development server, this will work, but if you have compiled your assets, that will not work. So what you need to do is basically you have to recompile them by running the mpn run build command. All right, so let me close this thing, and inside the yes, all right, so this one is the registration account. So method will be post, and the action will be route, and the name it would be what we have register, what it is, let me see, register user like so. and we have the first name, last name, email, password, and the password underscore confirmation, like so. And everything is set up to go. And one more thing is that we need to fill out our values. So I will say old and first dash name, and I will quickly copy them to the others. All right, so email and the last name. Reload the page. Everything still works. All right. One more thing, we need to have the CSRF directive here, protection. So without that, this form will never work. All right. So what we need to do is basically, we have created this post and we are asking it to go into the uh, this method, the create method. So public function create, and this create method will accept the request um, request object. So if I say dump and die dollar request, refresh the page. I have the fake filler Chrome extension. I will fill it up. First name, last name, email, and if I go, and you can see that we have the first name, last name, email, password is password, and the password confirmation is also the same. All right. So what we need to do is basically we need to first validate our things. So how we can validate is basically dollar request validate. Inside the validate, we can pass the rules here. So I will say first of all that the first name, or maybe we can make it in array. It's required, and it should be a minimum of maybe 3 characters, like so. And then we should create another for the last name, which is obviously required, and the next thing will be the email. Last thing, not the last thing, we also have passwords. So email, it should validate and it should have the email, and it should have, all right, so we remove the validation limitation here. And the last thing we need is basically the password. So this should be required and this should be confirmed. All right, so like so. And if everything works, this will work, and if it does not, then it will throw the errors. So let me quickly grab the validation errors file here inside our views file. I have it in another project. All right, so let's first of all we will create a directory of errors, and inside this directory I will paste that file, and that file name is uh, I'm not sure if I have created that file, so I will name it as errors dot blade. And inside here, let me quickly grab that code from here, from another project, and like so copy this one, like so. So what it does is basically it checks if the, alright, so first if Laravel throws any kind of validation error, so what it will do is basically it will throw them inside the global errors variable. So we will check if there are any errors, so by using the errors any, and then we will run the for each loop for errors all, and then we will print out the error. And these things, this session has message and this session has error. I will explain them to you later once we will cover up this thing. So let's go ahead and reload the page, and I say that so if I make this empty, it will by default say required. So if I just remove this thing from here and I say required should not be required by using the HTML inspect. submit it, and obviously it did throw us the error, but we have not included our file inside the errors. So what should we do is basically uh, above this field right here, so I will include the errors dot errors like so, and reload the page one more time, empty this one, remove the required validation from the HTML, submit the form, and there we go. So we can see that it is throwing us the error that the first name field is required. All right. So what else we need to do is basically we should say it like um, okay. So that's about it for this form. Now the next thing it should say. All right. So what else do we need to do? So there are two ways of validating um, Alright, so there are two ways of validating the form request. So the first way is this one inside the controller, but there is another way is that we should make a request file. So how we can do that is basically, let me clear up the terminal, php artisan make request, and I will name it as um, register account. Hit enter and it will create the request for us. So if we go into the app and http, we can see the requests folder here, and if we click on that you can see the request file here. All right, so what it does is basically you can pass the rules from here, and you can inject this class as a dependency inside this create method. So what do we need to do is basically inside the rules, we can just copy these things um, like so, only these things, and we just paste it here. So what it will do is basically this will do the same. This will apply the conditions to it that we have mentioned them here, and it will check if the rules passes, then it will move the request to the next level. If that fails, it will obviously throw us these errors files. So there is one more thing that we always need to make this authorized to true. All right, so right now we are making this as a true, but on the later stage we can apply some validations on it if it's required. So right now we do not need to uh, make any kind of validation here for the users to check if the user is some kind of, or maybe we can check that if the request is coming from a specific API, so we should block it here. There could be lots of conditions, so we should return it to true to make this authorized. And how we can get it here is basically remove this thing from here, and let's say uh, register account like so, and uh, let's create the maybe let's say request. All right, so we should remove this thing from here, and just to show you that everything works, so I will say request all, and just submit it again, or maybe we can just uh, let me remove this thing one more time from here like so, register, and there we go. So it again throws us the field, and the first name field is required and the password field is required, so the both fields are required. So we have not set the validation onto the password field, so it should also be required like so, and again it should also be required. All right. So you can see that we have two ways. The one way is by doing this inside the controller, and the other way is that we can make the form requests. So in that way, you can see that the controller is really clean now. All right. So what else we can do is basically let's just save it and go to Chrome extension, fake fill it, submit. As you can see that this time it passes and it gives us the data back. Alright, so what we need to do is basically throw the data inside the database. So it's pretty simple. What we can do is basically create an array like so. What I do is basically I do it this way. So I will say first name should be the request um, input first name, and we can also concatenate these as a combined, so first name and last name can be combined together. But for now I will do is basically I will try to make it the first name and last name two separate fields. So let's go into the users table, or maybe I think we should just make it like that. And the first name, or maybe we can get this inside the variables first. So first name equals to this one, and the last name is this one, and we can concatenate both here, first name and last name. All right, so the next thing is the password we have here. So sorry, the email. We have the email and we can get it request input email, and the password. So for password what we need to do is basically we can hash, and inside the hash make and give this a value, so it will automatically convert it to the bcrypt password. And the role it should have the user admin role, this one. All right, so what else do we need to do is basically we need to create the user. So user create info, so we can check is that um, if not, or maybe if user object exists and dollar user id is greater than 0, what we can do is basically return it back, redirect back um, with, and inside the bit we will pass what we have here inside the message, that account has been created successfully. And in else condition we need to give this the same and just say back with the error, and we can just pass it the something happened, please try again, please try again. All right, so if the user has been created, so what else do I need to do is basically redirect the user um, to the route, and for the route it should be login. Now everything has been set up. Reload the page. I will use the fake filler, register, and there we go. I think so the account has been created. Yes, so the email verified is empty, remember token is empty, role is set to 1, and there we go. So if I access, so let me do one more thing is basically inside the login index, just quickly copy this thing from here to here. All right, reload the page, create one more account, register it, like so the account has been created. All right, so what if I try to make the unlimited requests on this login form? For that we have implemented the throttle API, and In the next part, what we are going to do is basically we will set up the mail trap in our Laravel application, and inside the mail trap we will set up the credentials for the Laravel application. And what we will do is basically once the user has is registered, so we will create the events and listeners that will send the email to the user, and we will also implement the queue method. So all the emails should be sent to user via the queue. All right, so that's about it for this video. Please do like the video and subscribe my YouTube channel, and I will see you in the next video.